is Kimasabi, and this is my review of the Hanwei Cawood sword. I will be referring to a cheat sheet. So I got some of the information from the Yorkshire Museum wiki and my armoury. There was a couple of these found. I mean, this is a rare production, obviously. It's called a Cawood sword because it was found near Cawood Castle in England. And I think it's the River Ouse. I'll probably pronounce that wrong, but I don't really mind. The original sword had letters on both sides from the Lombardic, and the Roman alphabet, but they don't spell any known words that I guess historians can read. It could possibly be a religious phrase, they think. It's been dated by Ewart Oakeshott at about 1100 AD, so just after the Battle of Hastings, think that sort of time. So mail, Spangen helms, that sort of stuff. I guess this is actually the first sword that I bought, and I really like the look of it. I kind of wanted an arming style sword, and I looked at a few of them, and this one really stood out to me. So let's have a look. So it's a Oakeshott Type 12 blade. It has a Type M pommel or a lobed pommel. I guess that's in a sort of a Viking era style. But what I understand is this was likely to be an English sword. There was I guess its brother found. Where the hell was that found? I can't remember where that was found. I think it was Norway. It's a Type 12 blade. It has fullers on both sides, as you can see. A Type M pommel, or lobe pommel, and what I'm going to call an exaggerated Type 9 crossguard. I'm totally happy to be wrong with that, but when I looked up Oakeshott's typology, that sort of it was a curved guard. Now on the original, I think these were a bit offset, but on this particular example, they're not. They're even. It's a peened pommel. So if you don't know what that means, it means that the tang of the blade goes through the handle and comes out through the pommel there, and then it's been hammered down. And the steel for the sword blade itself is 5160 spring steel, and these guys here, the quillons and the pommel, are, I guess, some sort of alloy, and they're not susceptible to rust because I've kept the blade well oiled, but the peen, I guess, has a tiny bit of rust on it. So the length of it overall is, I'll do this both in inches and centimetres, 35 and 5/8. The blade is 29 and 5/8 inches. The grip is 4 inches, and the weight is 2 pounds 7 ounces. What that means is centimetres is 94 centimetres overall with the scabbard, and 91 centimetres without the scabbard. The blade itself is 76 centimetres. The grip section there is 9.5 centimetres, and the weight is 1.105 kilograms. I mean, I'm not sure if you'd call this a Viking era sword or an arming sword, but I'm going to go ahead and call it an arming sword. Here's the scabbard. I mean, I think what I liked about this was the look of the scabbard too, because most of the scabbards in my price range, or the swords and scabbards, are just plain black leather, and I did like this nod to decoration here. So it's leather wrapped here, and there are I guess some concerns. Here is the leather work underneath this protrusion here is a little bit sloppy, but otherwise it's pretty well done. It has a steel throat and chape, and a spiral bound leather wrapped grip. The centre of balance is 4.5 inches, or about 12 centimetres, so that's there-ish, about there. Yeah, there we go. Now, next page. I like the aesthetic, as I said, and it cost me $525 from War Sword Australia, plus $25 odd delivery. I could, yeah. So I mean, it's I guess in the lower price bracket, but the best I could afford at the time. When it came, it was well packaged, and from War Sword and Hanwei, and War Sword actually included a little K-bar Tanto, I guess. So it was a sort of a mix between a Tanto and a Marine Corps K-bar knife. First impressions was it just feels quite nice, and it was a little bit lighter, I guess, than I expected. But as I said, this was my this is the first sword that I've bought. I've since handled quite a few others, and this is, you know, right in the weight range of an arming sword, I guess. It wasn't very sharp out of the box. It was a sharp, I guess, it was sold as a sharp sword, and again, it didn't have what I would call a sharp edge. I'm guessing the edges of it were probably 0.5 millimeter or something like that. I sharpened this with an AccuSharp, and now it's sharp enough to cut paper, but not, say, shaving sharp. I'm looking into buying a work sharp, which is like a sort of a belt grinder specifically for knives. The leather, where I've handled it, has discoloured a little bit, and what I can't tell is if this leather is being dyed at all. I'm not sure if it has, and I wonder if you know, it was left to the individual as to whether to dye it or not. It's quite nice though, and I don't really mind the leather being a bit discoloured and that sort of stuff. But yeah, if it hasn't been dyed, then I guess it's susceptible to stains and that sort of stuff. Now, I'm a bit of an amateur with swords. I'm learning as I go. And what I was not quite aware of was, you know, how much this pommel might get in the way. And I feel like, yeah, it sort of doesn't get in the way a massive amount, but yeah, it was a consideration. And I imagine that I guess a round pommel might be a bit different. And so I guess this is sort of in between a Viking era sword and an arming sword. And so they may well have been used differently. I've, you know, primarily used this in the hammer grip style, I guess, and I've tried a sort of a handshake grip, and the pommel does come down more in line with the hand there. But I've just found that that's actually a sort of it feels like a much weaker position to hold the sword in. That said, I've done some cutting tests with it, and it's cut really nicely, just cut straight through milk jugs and I guess soda water bottles and that sort of thing. Again, it's a spring steel, so it's got some spring in it, and it just feels solidly well made. There's utterly no movement in any of the bits and pieces. And yeah, I guess the other thing of it is it sort of has a satin finish overall. You know, what I'd call a brushed look, and on the fullers there, it's a little bit shinier, and I just think the aesthetic of it is quite nice. Yeah, so I was quite impressed with it overall, and I have learnt now what I like more. See what you reckon?